Richard Djerf commits a crime so brutal and heinous that it shakes the foundations. Imagine a crime so brutal, so heinous, it shakes the very foundations of justice. This is the reality of the Djerf case, and today, we'll explore why the Supreme Court should decline to review the lower court's decision. Give a like and subscribe. Leave a comment. Richard Djerf committed an unspeakable act of vengeance. He murdered 4 members of the Luna family in cold blood. This included Albert Luna Sr., Patricia Luna, the mother, Rochelle Luna, the teenage sister, and Damien Luna, the young brother. Initially, Djerf was represented by counsel for 18 months. However, he made the shocking decision to represent himself. His motive? To avoid a jury trial where the gruesome details of his crimes would be laid bare. Ultimately, Djerf pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder. In exchange, the state dropped several other non-capital charges. He was subsequently sentenced to death for each murder. Djerf's appeal is subject to the stringent standards of the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act, AEDP. The core legal question is whether Djerf voluntarily waived his right to counsel. He now claims his waiver was not voluntary. Djerf argues that the Arizona Supreme Court unreasonably determined his waiver was voluntary. He further contends that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals erred in upholding the Arizona Supreme Court's decision. He also alleges the trial court failed to adequately assess the effectiveness of his initial counsel. Djerf criticizes the Ninth Circuit for concluding that his initial counsel was constitutionally effective. He believes this conclusion was flawed and warrants Supreme Court review. Djerf has failed to demonstrate a conflict between the Ninth Circuit's ruling and other federal courts. He also hasn't shown a conflict with the Arizona Supreme Court's decisions. This is a crucial requirement for granting certiorari. Essentially, Djerf is asking the Supreme Court to engage in routine error correction. This is something the court typically declines to do, as its role is to address broader legal principles. Djerf and Albert Luna Jr. were once friends and co-workers. Their relationship soured when Luna Jr. stole items from Djerf's apartment. Among the stolen items was an AK-47 assault rifle. Frustrated by what he perceived as police inaction, Djerf sought revenge. He decided to take matters into his own hands with devastating consequences. Djerf armed himself with a handgun, knife, and other items and went to the Luna home. He deceived Patricia Luna to gain entry into the house. Once inside, Djerf bound Patricia and her young son, Damien. He then proceeded to rape and murder Rochelle Luna. The horror didn't end there. Djerf murdered Albert Luna Sr. with a baseball bat and knife. He then attempted to electrocute Damien. Finally, he shot Patricia and Damien. In a final act of depravity, Djerf attempted to set the house on fire. He later confessed his crimes to his girlfriend and friends. Police recovered damning evidence from Djerf's apartment, car, and motel room. This evidence corroborated his confession and solidified the case against him. Djerf entered into a plea agreement with the state. He pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder to avoid a jury trial. In exchange for his guilty plea, the state dismissed the remaining non-capital counts. This was a strategic move by Djerf to avoid further scrutiny of his actions. The trial court found several aggravating circumstances in Djerf's case. These included pecuniary gain, heinousness, cruelty, and the murder of a minor. The trial court found no mitigating factors that would weigh against the death penalty. This sealed Djerf's fate. The Arizona Supreme Court affirmed Djerf's convictions and death sentences. They rejected his claims of trial error. The Arizona Supreme Court determined that the aggravating circumstances were established beyond a reasonable doubt. They affirmed the death sentences, solidifying the lower court's decision. Djerf's subsequent post-conviction relief petition was dismissed. Djerf filed a federal habeas petition in the District Court of Arizona. He sought to overturn his convictions and death sentences. The district court dismissed several of Djerf's claims. These were deemed procedurally barred or non-cognizable under federal law. The district court denied the remaining claims and granted a certificate of appealability on one issue. This allowed Djerf to appeal a specific aspect of the ruling. The district court issued a second order denying Djerf's subsequent motion to alter or amend the court's judgment. It also expanded the certificate of appealability to include a second issue. The Ninth Circuit remanded the case for reconsideration after the Supreme Court's decision in Martinez v. Ryan. This case addressed ineffective assistance of counsel claims. The district court again denied relief under Martinez. The Ninth Circuit then affirmed the district court ruling. The Ninth Circuit emphasized the strength of the state's aggravation case. This further solidified the decision to uphold Djerf's death sentences. Certiorari is granted only for compelling reasons. These reasons typically involve significant legal questions or conflicts between courts. Djerf has not provided any compelling reasons for the Supreme Court to grant certiorari. His arguments lack the necessary legal weight. Djerf's attempt to show a circuit split is based on factually distinguishable cases. The legal principles at play in those cases differ from those in his own. The state court reasonably applied established federal law. There is no indication that the court deviated from established legal precedent. Federal habeas review correctly affirmed the state court's decision. The lower courts properly applied the law and reached a just conclusion. Djerf argues the Ninth Circuit incorrectly applied Ferretta v. California and Edwards v. Arizona. These cases address the right to self-representation and the waiver of counsel. Djerf claims his waiver was involuntary due to ineffective assistance of counsel during the pre-trial period. He argues that his initial attorneys failed to adequately represent him. The Arizona Supreme Court found Djerf's waiver was voluntary, knowing, and intelligent. They determined that he understood the consequences of representing himself. The trial court fully informed Djerf of his rights and the dangers of self-representation. This ensured that he made an informed decision. Djerf's attorneys stated he was competent to make the decision to self-represent. This further supports the conclusion that his waiver was voluntary. Djerf claimed his request to self-represent was due to insufficient communication from his appointed counsel. He felt that his attorneys were not adequately communicating with him. The trial court pointed out that Djerf's attorneys had been fully engaged, working on his behalf. This contradicted Djerf's claim of insufficient communication. The Arizona Supreme Court rejected Djerf's claim that his request to self-represent was actually a request to change counsel. They found no evidence to support this claim. The Arizona Supreme Court cited Djerf's motion to proceed pro se. They also cited his interactions and colloquy with the trial court. The state court reiterated that Djerf requested only that he be allowed to represent himself. The district court determined the Arizona Supreme Court reasonably rejected Djerf's challenge. They found no basis to overturn the state court's decision. The district court concluded that Djerf's related ineffective assistance claim was not substantial. They determined that its procedural default could not be excused. The Ninth Circuit agreed that counsel was not constitutionally deficient during the pretrial proceedings. They found that Djerf's initial attorneys provided adequate representation. The Ninth Circuit detailed counsel's pretrial work. This included jail visits, witness interviews, and motion practice. The Ninth Circuit found that Djerf was not forced to choose between self-representation and incompetent counsel. His decision to represent himself was voluntary and informed. The Ninth Circuit correctly applied Supreme Court precedent in this case. They followed established legal principles and reached a sound conclusion. Djerf has not shown that the state court's decision was unreasonable. He has failed to demonstrate that the court deviated from established legal precedent. The cases Djerf cites are factually distinguishable from his own. The legal principles at play in those cases differ from those in his. The Ninth Circuit determined that even assuming that Djerf's pretrial ineffective assistance of counsel claim was substantial, which the panel called a stretch in light of the record and the service performed by counsel, Djerf would have struggled to show that the purported deficiencies resulted in sufficient prejudice to warrant overturning his 4 murder convictions. This highlights the weakness of Djerf's claims. The Supreme Court's time and resources are precious. They should be reserved for cases with significant legal implications. This case does not meet that threshold. The lower courts have thoroughly reviewed Djerf's claims and have consistently rejected them. There is no reason for the Supreme Court to intervene. The facts of this case are horrific, and justice has been served. The Supreme Court should deny certiorari and allow the lower court's decision to stand. Don't let this case clog up the Supreme Court's docket. The Djerf case is a tragedy, a stark reminder of the depths of human depravity. The lower courts have meticulously reviewed the facts and applied the law appropriately. Granting certiorari would be a waste of judicial resources and would not serve the interests of justice. Therefore, we urge you to share this video to raise awareness about the importance of upholding the decisions of the lower courts in this case. Subscribe to our channel for more legal analysis and updates on important cases. Let's ensure that justice prevails and that the Supreme Court focuses on cases with broader legal implications.